Alright, in this video we're going to talk about multiplication properties of exponents. This is the first video in the next unit, so go ahead and pause and copy down your lesson title and your standards, and then notice that your I can statements is already on your guided notes. So go ahead and pause, copy that stuff down, and then we'll get started. So at the top of your guided notes, notice that we have a little bit of vocabulary going on. And the biggest thing that I need you to really know is the difference between the exponent and the base. The exponent is here and the base is here. All right. Now I know you all know what an exponent is, and I'll be referring to the base as what it is. I'll be referring to that throughout the video. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first rule having to do with exponents is called product of powers. Okay, and basically what you do is when you are multiplying, okay, because remember these are multiplicative rules. So when you are multiplying the same base, you add the exponents. So the first thing we're going to do in the first example with the fives, okay, we have the 5 to the second power and 5 to the sixth power. So if you expand this out, and they're going to make you do this next year in Algebra 2, they're going to make you expand everything out. But basically, the exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base by itself. So 5 to the second power, you write, that's 2 5s, 5 times 5. 5 to the sixth power is 5 times itself 6 times. So that looks like this, okay? Now, all you have to do is just count how many 5s you have. So notice that in the first set of parentheses, we have 2 5s here. We have 6 5s here. All you have to do is add them together because you have a total of 8 5s. So that answer is going to be 5 to the 8th power. And you're finished. Okay, now let's move over to the y's. Go ahead and pause the video and expand that out. So when you expand out the y to the fourth, you get y times itself 4 times. So that's 4 y's here. You have 3 y's in the second set of parentheses, and you have 1 y in the last set of parentheses. So when you add those together, you get 4 plus 3 plus 1. So your final answer then, when you simplify, is y to the 8th power. Okay? Now, let's move down to 7y to the 5th times 6y. Commutative property, remember, says that we can multiply things in any order that we want and we'll still get the same answer. So you want to use the commutative property to separate the factors out. So for instance, we have 7 times 6, okay, and then you have y to the 5th times y. Now, y to the 5th is 5 y's, and then y without the exponent, remember that there is an invisible 1 there. All right, so then you multiply your 7 times 6, which is your 42, and then you can take your 5 and you can add your 1, so you get y to the 6th power, and you're finished. Okay, so based on that, go ahead and pause the video and try the last example. Okay, so hopefully when you expanded it out, you put the -3 and the 5 together, so you multiply those, and that's going to be -15. And then remember that that single x, it has a 1 there. So then when you have x to the second power times x to the first power, that's x to the 2 plus 1, which is x to the third. And then you have y to the 7th times y to the 6th, which is y to the 7 plus 6, which is y to the 13th. And you're finished. Okay, now let's move on to the next set. This is the next rule in powers of exponents, and it's called power of a power. So basically what you're doing is you are taking an exponent and you are raising it to an exponent. Okay, so notice that those two exponents, the m and the n, they're separated by that parenthesis right there, and parentheses mean multiply. So when you are raising a power to a power, you multiply the exponents, all right? So let's try the first example so that you can kind of expand it out and see what it is that you're doing. So if you have x squared to the 8th power, that means that you have 8 x squareds. So that's 1, 2, so 8x squareds. Now, you're back to what we just did then, where you just add up all the exponents. So you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So you have a total of 16 x's. So that's x to the 16th. So notice that the shortcut there is to just take the 2 times 8 and you get your final answer of 16. Okay, now go ahead and try the y to the negative 3 times y, or to the negative 4th power. Don't worry about expanding it out, just go ahead and use the shortcut. So when you do that, you get y to the negative 3 times negative 4, so your final answer here is y to the positive 12th power. Okay, so remember that when you are raising a power to a power, you need to multiply those exponents. All right? All right, this is the last example. So let's move on to power of a product. Okay, so power of a product means we have a product or something being multiplied inside a set of parentheses, and then we're raising that whole set of parentheses to a power. So notice that in the AB up at the top to the m power, notice that your answer then is a to the m, b to the m. And so basically it's kind of like distributing that exponent because it has to go to everything inside the parentheses, all right? So it has to go to each factor in the parentheses. So here's what that looks like. Let's start with the 4x to the 3rd yz all raised to the 3rd power, okay? So the 4x to the 3rd yz to the 3rd means that you have 4x to the 3rd yz 3 times. So 4x to the 3rd yz and 4x to the 3rd yz. Now remember, these are all being multiplied, okay? I just ran out of room horizontally. So now what you do is you just multiply your 4's together. So you have 4 times 4, which is 16. So 4 times 4, which is 16, times 4 is 64. All right? And then now, since you have 3x to the 3rds, you are multiplying like bases, so you're going to add those exponents. So you have 3, 6, you have 9 x's, okay? And then you have 1, 2, 3 y's, so that's y to the 3rd. And then you have 3 z's, so that's z to the 3rd as well, okay? And then that's your final answer. So notice that if you were to go back up to the example, notice that you have 4 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd power, which is power of a power, and then you have y to the 3rd power, and you have z to the 3rd power. So that exponent has to go to each and every term inside the parentheses. Okay? So now go ahead and try the next example. Okay, so when you take that negative 2 and you apply it to the 7, the x, and the y, you end up with 7 to the negative 2 power, and we will talk about in the next couple of sections what to do with negative exponents, but for now, just leave it like this. Okay, and then you've got x to the negative 2 power, and then you've got y to the positive 4th power because you have to multiply those exponents. All right? Okay, now give the last example a shot. So you take your negative 2 and you apply it to each and every term inside the parentheses. So that's going to be 6 to the negative 2 power. That's going to be x. Now, you take your -6 and your -2. That's going to give you a positive 12 exponent for your x. And then on the y, you take your -7 times -2. That's positive 14. And then z to the 0 times -2. Okay, 0 times anything is 0. So that's just z to the 0th power. Okay? And we'll talk about also what to do with the 0 exponents as well. But for now, all you have to know is those 3 rules for multiplying exponents at this time. So make sure you bring your questions to class tomorrow, and we will go over anything that still does not make sense, and then we will work on the assignment. Okay? See you then.